Good afternoon, and thank you for joining. I think we want to go ahead and get started. I'd like to introduce one of your hosts for this forum, Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs, Christopher Giordano, who will start us off with some opening comments.
Thanks very much, Stephanie, and welcome everyone. Thanks so much for joining us for today's strategic transformation town hall. I really appreciate everyone's interest in participating in this process. I'm also very happy to be joined by Chancellor Dutta and Provost Feast Price. They'll participate with me, listening and, when appropriate, answering questions. Also joining us today are members from Huron, the consulting group assisting us with the transformation process. We're happy to be joined by Nick Bradley, Gina Flynn, and Matt Friedman. So welcome all. We have about an hour together, and here's how we'll spend our time. I'll provide some brief opening comments and provide some context for our talk. We'll then transition into your questions, listen, and provide answers as best we can in the moment. If a question requires follow-up, I'll be sure to follow up with you. And then we'll conclude when there are no more questions or we reach 6 p.m. So first, I want to start out by acknowledging that this transformation for all of us can be stressful. Uncertainty can contribute to some anxiety, but it can also provide an opportunity to focus on possibilities. We have a great opportunity in front of us. Together, we have a chance to transform this campus, your campus, in ways that can positively impact lives for generations to come. A key for all of us is understanding, having a clearer sense of the need to transform. I've heard from several students that they don't understand why this strategic transformation is happening. So let me briefly explain. It's important to understand that we aren't doing this just because we want to. In order to secure a positive future for UM-Flint, we have to change and evolve. The current model for UM-Flint is not sustainable. We have to fix it, and we will. But simply put, what we've done over the years won't work in the long term. We don't have enough students enrolling at UM-Flint, and those students who are here aren't graduating in high enough numbers. The same trends, year after year, have to reverse at some point, and that point is now. UM-Flint, with Ann Arbor's support, with UM Ann Arbor's support, is committed to this exploration in the best possible way, and we must see it through for the long-term benefit of all of us and for the Flint community. We'll collectively do what it takes to make this university strong for the future. That's our goal, and together, that's what we'll achieve. But we have to get this right, which is why we have not rushed through this process. Most recently, on December 9th, we held a town hall with an update on this process and shared the results of a market analysis. When we say market analysis, we're referring to a close look at opportunities for UM-Flint in this part of the state. The big question asked on your behalf is, what could the future look like for our graduates? How can our alumni have career opportunities living and working where they want to make their homes? This data analysis allows us to see the landscape around us and view the trends affecting where opportunities may be. We know there are high demand fields where UM-Flint can be a leader in meeting those demands. We need to make sure we're offering opportunities in those areas, always ensuring a high quality education and a supportive student experience at our core. At the same time, national and state trends are affecting us. That's another reason why the time for transformation is now. Individuals of typical college age are on the decline, and that will continue. How can we enroll enough students? How can we provide the right programs to be sustainable? Those are questions that need to be answered. And as part of this transformation process, we now have more data than we did before we began and are better able to answer them. If you haven't yet, I recommend that you visit the Strategic Transformation website to see details of the market analysis. The presentation slides from the town hall are posted, as it answers many questions that we know students have and includes part of the data set that informs decisions. You can also watch the December 9th town hall via the website. The best thing we can do right now is focus on this phase of the transformation process. Identify our strengths as a university and consider areas and ideas that will help secure a positive future for UM-Flint. This means hearing all voices, including yours. Over the past couple of months, we've met with student leaders and listened to them and had many students participate in focus groups. This has all been extremely valuable. To those of you who participated, thank you. Your engagement really matters. All told, we're approaching 2,000 pieces of stakeholder feedback. That level of involvement speaks to the care each of you have for this institution and this community. And we're not just talking to students, we're listening to faculty, university staff, community members, alumni, and employers. Every piece of feedback is valuable. I want to emphasize that decisions have not been made. When it comes time to do that, decisions will be based on information that best positions the university and students for the future, along with a collective understanding of where this institution needs to be in the years to come. That understanding is gained through input we receive in conversations like this. So one question I'd like to answer right away is the one that I've probably received most often from students. So regardless of the details of the plan that are in progress, you will be able to graduate as planned in your degree program. Any changes to any programs will not affect current students. So as you consider your input and questions, think of the student experience here and what UM-Flint could be like for the future as a place you'll be proud to talk about and a place that you'll be proud to come back to as an alum. Please know that every student on our campus was invited to be part of tonight's town hall. So for those unable to attend, we'll make a recording of this session available on the Strategic Transformation website. Again, if you've not been able to visit the website, I encourage you to do that whenever you have the time. You'll see everything that's been communicated about the process since it began, and all that we'll continue to share as we're committed to a transparent process. Finally, there's a significant amount of energy and focus on academic programs during this initial stage of the process. Subsequent stages of the process will address student support and non-academic services. So please continue to bring forward your ideas, your thoughts, and your questions. So here's how we'll begin. Questions submitted ahead of time will be answered first. Live questions should be asked by raising your hand in Zoom. The chat feature has been disabled during the town hall. If there are more questions than can be covered in this 1 hour time period, you're encouraged to send additional questions to the Flint Transformation website email address. That's flint-transformation@umich.edu, or submit questions and comments through the feedback form on the UM-Flint Transformation webpage. So in order to control background noise, we'll ask that you remain muted until you're called upon to speak, and then you're welcome to turn your video on to ask your question. Lastly, we've dedicated this time specifically for students to raise questions related to the strategic transformation. So unrelated concerns or issues are best addressed through other mechanisms we have in place. And if you have any questions about that, you can let me know. Okay, so with that, we're going to begin with our first question. We received 4 questions in advance, some of which I will paraphrase because they're quite lengthy. So the first question asks about having a social work minor at the university, and if that will be part of the strategic transformation. So what I can share is the SEHS Dean, that's the School of Education and Health Science and Human Services Dean, as all the deans are in the process of reviewing their programs and offerings with their faculty. So we'll be sure that we share this feedback with Dean Kubitsky, but that information is already under review. But I appreciate that question. So the second question, and this is a good question. It's a question regarding support for adult students with full-time jobs and families, and what transformation efforts are being made to support that student demographic. So what I can share is the transformation process is not only a review of our current structure, but it's also a reflection on how we need to continue to evolve to meet the needs of a dynamic student population that we have here at UM-Flint. So how to best support students, meet the needs of various student populations, including adult students. This will all be part of the next phase of the process. So I appreciate that question. Third question. This is a very long question, but it's with regard to campus navigation, facilities, updates that are under consideration as part of the transformation. So one aspect of this question I particularly resonates with me, because I agree that our campus at times is not the easiest to navigate. So while it's relatively small and compact, it can be confusing. So earlier this year, actually, the chancellor and I met with student government, and they had brought this issue to our attention during one of our monthly meetings. And we explored some possibilities around handheld navigation to get around campus. We haven't quite gotten there yet, but we're still exploring options to help us better navigate around campus. And that includes some better campus signage and better sort of campus mapping, both online and physically on campus. I want to make sure that this topic remains a priority. So I see that we have TJ and Lena here, and I'll make sure that you hold our feet to the fire, that we continue to make this a priority and explore ways that we can do this better. But it will be part of the next phase of this transformation process. So I really appreciate whoever brought that forward to our attention. Last question, and then we'll get to your questions. This question is about changes to student life outside of the academic setting, community outreach programs in the Flint community, updates to facilities and student spaces around campus. So what role will this play as part of the student transformation? And we'll be evaluating all of these things. All of these things are part of the next phases of this process. Community engagement and outreach has emerged as one of the common themes through the various stakeholder feedback we received, through the various town halls that we've held. So that is certainly one of the areas that we'll be exploring further. And then we'll continue to determine where we can make facilities upgrades and improvements. One of the areas that I could point to is USEN, and that brings me back to navigating the campus. And USEN is our university center, but we can think about ways that we can better communicate some of our acronyms to some of our students, especially our new students, so they know what we're referring to. But within the university center, we've completed phase 1 of a Clint's Cafe remodel. We'll be transitioning into phase 2, which really will essentially be a facelift of that space. The decor, the furniture, just kind of the general feel. So we're constantly looking at ways that we can upgrade facilities, student spaces on campus, and we'll continue to review this. But please continue to share your thoughts and ideas on how we can improve in those areas. So again, good question, and thank you for the person that submitted that. So now we get to you guys. So I would just say it's a small group. It doesn't have to be as formal as maybe we had originally planned. So feel free to raise your hand, and then we'll start the conversation. Alicia.
Mr. Giordano, hi everyone. Thank you for having this and having all of us here. So I wanted to ask a question because you mentioned that, there was a concern that students had that, and you wanted to reiterate that you will be able to graduate with your program and everything, and that it doesn't affect current students. So by saying that it wouldn't affect current students right now in this time frame, what about new freshmen who will be graduating a couple years from now? What will also happen once you graduate with your degree? There's been some concern from students of whether or not their degree program that they were in will still be here, or there was concern about the weight in which that degree will hold at this point. And so I don't know if you'd be willing to speak on that, if that's okay.
Yeah, well, let me,
being...
I'll offer, Alicia, and thank you for that question. I'll offer a few thoughts, and then I'll ask our provost to share some thoughts as well. I know as we go through part of this process, it is extremely important for us to continue to serve our current students and make sure that what they came here for, the program of study that they came here for, they will be able to complete and continue toward degree completion. That's of utmost importance. What we don't know is what the future may look like. And since no decisions have been made, it's hard to speak to any specific area that this may impact. But what I'll ask the provost if she'd like to share some additional thoughts with regard to your question.
So hello, everyone. Alicia, thank you for your question. Excellent question. One of the things I know is that in this time of transformation, decisions really have not been made. When the chancellor said early on that decisions were not made, we were gathering information, we're doing our due diligence to take into consideration all of the wealth of information that's provided to us by Huron. That is exactly what we're doing. So please know we have not made any decisions. There is a possibility, just thinking about the broad range of possibilities, there's a possibility for any number of things to happen. We're not sure. However, if that is the case where a program no longer exists, we will offer what is called a teach out to ensure that any students that started the university to pursue that degree will be able to complete that degree. One thing that is wonderful about a University of Michigan degree, a University of Michigan-Flint degree, is that that degree will forever hold its weight, not only in the state or in this country, but nationally, internationally as well. A UM-Flint degree never loses its value. So that is something all of our students can rest assured. Thank you for your question.
And please feel free, Alicia, if you have any follow-up or comments, feel free to jump back in. Otherwise, we'll continue to open it up to others that may have some questions. Except from Dean Snyder. She's not allowed to ask any questions. Are there any thoughts that you would like to share that aren't necessarily questions? Any comments that you would like to share about the transformation process? TJ?
Yeah, thank you for holding this, Dr. G and the Chancellor's Office. My question is, so I'm under this understanding that with the information from here on, we're mostly focused on academic transformation at this point. No decisions are made, but I was kind of curious, in the scope of academic transformation, do we consider auxiliary units such as Office of Online and Digital Learning and other units that would accentuate both the learning experience and the academic experience as a whole, that would draw people in and put more butts in seats?
Yeah. Great question, TJ. So I'll share some thoughts, and then I'll again open it up to my colleagues. If we look at this from an order of operations standpoint, really the first thing that we have to do is we need to identify what our core academic mission is going to be. And the core academic mission is driven by what our academic programs are and what our academic offerings are. At that point, when we have a little clearer sense and direction of what that may be, then we have to determine, how do we best support students through those programs? And that'll be through support services, that'll be through resources, that'll be through student success programs. It'll be different depending on, you know, what the academic program is, because what somebody needs in the School of Management may be very different from what somebody needs in the School of Nursing. But then if we look at this more generally, regardless of what we offer, we will always need to be able to offer certain support services. We will always have to offer CAPS for students, for sure. So I think once we have a little clearer sense and get through this first phase of this process, then we really start to focus in on all the non-academic areas. And then we identify the areas that we have strengths in and are strong in, identify some gap areas, and then identify some areas that we need to supplement based on some of these new or different programs that we might be offering. So I'm really excited about that part, because that's kind of my area. That's coming. We're not quite there yet, and I don't know if the Chancellor or the Provost have anything to add.
I think you did a phenomenal job answering that question, Dr. G. So I really don't have any more to add, because I think you're spot on. I just want to emphasize the fact that our student support services are critically important. Once we admit students, we want them to be successful. So our support services speaks to the retention, persistence, and graduation, timely graduation of our students. And so I just want to reaffirm the fact that we will do our due diligence regarding our student support services to ensure that they are what our students require to be successful. So that is the phase 2 of this process.
TJ?
I don't want to be the guy asking all the questions, but you mentioned a phase 2. I know no decisions are made this time, but is there any talk about a more thorough outline on what processes are happening at what time, and if there's timelines on each, and if there are multiple stages of presentation to the regions?
Chancellor, would you like to take that one?
Yes. Happy to. And let me say this. So right now we are in phase 1, as you know. Phase 1 is slated for completion in Q1. As soon as we get to the closure or close enough, we will begin phase 2, because as was said by Vice Chancellor Giordano, once we know what kind of programs need support, I mean, what the programs are, we will better know what kind of support they need, what kind of student success initiatives they need. So that will that phase, which we are referring to as the academic support services phase, will begin around that time. I cannot give you a specific date, but it'll be towards the end of Q1. And we will see how long that takes. That is more of an internal conversation. We have, it's a more local knowledge-based thing. What kind of support services we have, what do we need, how our Office of Digital Education is configured, how much do we need to expand. So all of those will be considered then, as we are getting close to the end of phase 1.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor. Alicia?
Apologies for asking.
Oh,
But
please.
yeah, so I personally am a transfer student, and I came over here from my community college. And you know, we talk about the transformation in regards to, you know, how it can be, it create a successful track for students, how it can it goes in line with what employers are looking for. I guess I'm wondering, how will this transformation affect the campus in regards to many students? At least I can only speak just as a regular student on the ground. And from what I've heard, even before I came here and while I'm here and while I'm about to leave in fall of this year, is that many students found themselves feeling as though being in this university, that it was, how do I say this? You had mentioned earlier that this university has support from Ann Arbor, but there are a lot of students here who feel subpar to Ann Arbor and feel as though that we are not seen on the same level, that we don't have the same opportunities already, that although we've had renovations and things now, there's still areas of difficulty around the campus that we're trying to fix. And so while the priority is focusing on, you know, jobs, while the priority is focusing on, you know, preparing for afterward, what can we do? How would this transformation put current students as a priority, and to make us feel like we are University of Michigan students, we are just as important as those in Ann Arbor?
Yeah. Yeah, Alicia, I appreciate that. And I think when you're part of a university system, there are always going to be comparisons. You know, it's hard to escape those comparisons. What I can share with you is, and having worked in other systems, you know, even though we're the University of Michigan-Flint, we're our own independent university. We have a different mission than UM Ann Arbor. We serve a very different student population. We're situated differently. We have a different role within our community. I mean, we share the same name, but we're just two very different places. And I say this sincerely, I'm not apologizing for anything. I'm proud of where I work. I'm proud of where I am at UM-Flint, and I'm proud.
That's how I
to
feel.
have-
I'm like, I'm a Flint native, and
Yeah.
I've dreamt about being here since I was a kid.
I mean,
So, yeah, I feel the same
my
way.
thing is, we lean into this and we celebrate who we are. We don't talk about, you know, what we're not. Let's truly celebrate who we are, and let's create the best possible experience we can for our students based on the kind of institution that we are. So what I can tell you is I want to create the best experience, the best student experience here that I can, knowing that it's not going to mirror the UM Ann Arbor experience because it's just different, you know, but it doesn't mean it's less than, it doesn't mean it's inferior, and it doesn't mean it can't be just as meaningful and just as fulfilling. So I really hope that this is really going to help sort of catapult us into another level of the student experience, because then we can really focus in on the things that we need to do to best support this population of students in this place at this time to study, you know, these programs and to be connected within this community. I think it's really going to help us to kind of refocus our efforts and energy and resources kind of in that direction. So that's kind of where I sit with this. But I never want to hear our students feel like they are less than, because they are not. And I'll be honest with you, our students are managing things that I know the Ann Arbor students are not, and you guys are achieving in ways and at a level that others are not. We have a great story to tell here. We just have to tell it.
Yeah, that in the past, forgive me for talking out of turn, but in the past town hall, I had talked about being a moot court competitor, going to the Great Lakes Regional competition, and the fact that we are the only U of M branch that has a team, and the fact that we were able to represent the school was amazing and something to be very proud of. And you know, I think that's always been the party. You know, I I love the school, I love the city, I love everything about it. And, you know, that's something that I've been hearing, and it's just, you know, trying to figure out like, how is this going to make students feel as though this is an option for them, you know, that there are opportunities for them, that they'll be able to have opportunities in their department and things like that. I had those experiences when I was at Mott, and want to, know that future students coming up after me will be able to have those experiences too, you know. Thank you so much for your
Yeah.
answer, Mr. Giordano.
No, for sure. And I really think part of this, Alicia, is we have to do a better job at telling our story. We have to do a better job at highlighting our students. We have to do a better job of acknowledging and celebrating our achievements, because they are many. But part of human nature is you tend not to focus on that stuff. You focus on the areas that need, you know, more attention and more work. So I have received that, and I'm really going to take that back to my division and really think of ways that we can do a better job to acknowledge and tell the stories of our students and celebrate our students. Lena.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, all of you guys for putting this together. The students really appreciate it. And my question was to you guys, what is exactly being done with the feedback being received from the website? Is it going to, is it being distributed amongst ITAC and the steering committee? Is there like a pattern in the feedback that's being received? Essentially just what's being done with it, where is it going? And this is coming from both as a student and a student leader, just wanting to know like essentially what's happening with it.
Sure. And I think this may be a good question to funnel to one of our Huron folks who have been collecting the information. I don't know, Nick, if it's you or if it's Gina, who would be the best person to address that?
I'm happy to speak to it. So nice to see all of you again. I saw many of you in other meetings or in person. So I can personally tell you that we're reading every single message that has come in through the website. I've actually read every single one of them, and they're being consolidated and analyzed to find some common themes. So as you can probably imagine, there are some very specific, submissions that are made about individual experiences with a particular program, office, or initiative, advocating for additional resources. There are submissions that aren't necessarily directly connected to the transformation process, but then there are also some very clear themes that have emerged in the submissions, and all of that, most of it was summarized and presented on December 9th when we gave the engagement summary presentation at the town hall. So anyone can go back and look at those slides, to review some of those themes, or listen to the presentation that was offered to campus. But then it didn't stop on December 9th. So we've continued to receive more feedback, dozens of more submissions, and we'll continue to receive that throughout the entire process. And we continue to iterate on those themes that go into the synthesis and get tied in with the market analysis and the economic analysis, so that it creates a full picture. And as Chancellor Dutta said on December 9th, all of that then goes back to the campus leadership to say, okay, now what is best for our campus, right? There's the snapshot from feedback and market analysis, and then the question comes up of what really fits with our mission, what fits with our goals in the community, what fits with the things that we're, does the market analysis fit with the things that we're hearing in the feedback, and where do we see some clear trends? So none of it's getting lost, and it's all being paid attention to initially to give a very direct answer. It gets put into the analysis that then goes to ITAC and steering committee, so that they can also consider that feedback as they're taking in all the other information. And then that'll go to the regents and to the chancellor to be able to make some decisions.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Gina. What else, folks? We have about 20 minutes left. Can use the time that we have together to continue to explore, some of these questions that you might have. Yes, Alicia.
Okay, so before the pandemic, I used to work as a international student ambassador here and help with the admissions process for international students. And we've seen there've been, as far as I'm hearing, a little bit of concern of regards to what this will mean for them. So we know that the process of applying and being accepted to U of M-Flint is more strenuous, I would say, than that of domestic students, even the cost of tuition. But in regards to this transformation, where does this lead international students, in your opinion?
I don't know that I have a good response to that.
So let me chime in. Actually, Alicia, this is student agnostic. It really will impact if the transformation is done right, which we hope it will be, and it will take some time. It will positively impact domestic students as well as international students, because as Vice Chancellor Giordano was saying in response to TJ's question, first we are looking at academic programs. Strong, in-demand academic programs is what attracts students, right? And then good support services to undergird those programs such that students graduate with, as you mentioned, a degree from U of M, which, as the provost mentioned, is recognized across the world. So I think it will impact positively our domestic student base as well as international student base. Now, in terms of support services, these two bodies are different. They need a different level of support services as they come to Flint. It's a new country, new town, new everything. So we don't have that as much. I will admit to you, we don't. We used to. Back 5 years ago, we used to, because there was a larger population of international students. Now we are beginning to build it up, because this fall, we did see a significant increase in international students. And we are aiming at a significant increase come fall of 23. And as we are planning for that, we are building up the support services that are very specific to international students. So we are looking at this very carefully. And I think there is good possibility, and we are trying very hard to increase the number of international students from a range of countries, not just one country or two. We want a diversity there as well, because they come in with different perspectives, add that to the campus life, benefits domestic students. So that's where we are. And I'm hopeful that through this transformation, we will actually make it more robust and make their experience and domestic students' experience more rich. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry for
No, go ahead.
interrupting. I
Go
just want to also add, excellent question. We have recently hired Dr. Zachariah Matthew. He started with us not very long ago. He is a phenomenal leader for the Center of Global Engagement. He comes with a wealth of knowledge, and he has a lot of energy. He's worked with international student populations at a number of universities in various capacities. But what I think is really important and exciting is that not only are we working to recruit students and making sure that we have ample resources for the students, but we're working to create a community of belonging such that when the students are here, they feel a sense of home away from home, if you will, so that they're more likely to find a sense of community, get engaged, and be a very active and important part of our campus community, such that they don't want to just graduate, they want to stay connected. And so that's what we're working toward here at UM-Flint. And that's very important part of this strategic transformation process, better engaging with our international students.
Yeah, and Provost and Alicia, I'll say I met with Dr. Matthew yesterday, and we are very fortunate to have him as part of our campus community. We talked about all kinds of really exciting possibilities and ideas around partnerships and collaborations. And one of the things we talked about was sometimes in higher ed, internally, we create these kind of internal sort of boundaries that are invisible to students, you know. So even though the Center for Global Engagement reports up through the academic area and I'm in student affairs, there's so much overlap that we're planning on doing so much collaboration, so much partnership. He's going to come to our meetings and we're going to do things together so that we can best leverage resources to support in a very targeted way our international students, but also our international students add to our enriches our diversity on this campus. So then how can we also have our international students enrich the other, our domestic student experience as well? I think there's really a lot of possibilities there. And I'm really hoping that once we get into this next phase of this process, then we're able to really have some, content-based substantive conversations about these kinds of things that we can do to enhance the student experience here. Well, I don't want to keep us if we feel like we've reached kind of a natural conclusion to the conversation, but certainly open it up to any last thoughts or questions. And if there are none, there are still mechanisms as you process, maybe what we talked about today, or you continue to think about the transformation and how that may impact you or others, to share that feedback with us, through the website, through the email address, because we will continue, and Gina does it every day. We'll continue to review every piece of feedback we get from our stakeholders, and continue to incorporate that and synthesize that into the overall planning process. Alicia.
All right, this is the last question. So, one of the things before I transfer, forgive the background noise if you could hear it, but one of the biggest things I wanted to ask was how this will impact the Flint community. Because one of the things I took pride in before I transferred here when I was at Mott was how integrated things were with the community. I will not lie that I was concerned about having outside, consulting and thoughts, because it reminded me as a Flint resident of when we had the city manager. It was concerning when we had an outside perspective, because at the end of the day, my thought process was, this is a cornerstone of the Flint community. Not only that, but we have members all over the city and various schools here who dream about wanting to come here and want to also, there are organizations all around the city that want to and have participated with us. So in your words, how do you think this transformation of University of Michigan-Flint can actually be a cornerstone for the Flint community as a whole?
Yeah, and I really appreciate that question, because again, that has been a theme that has emerged through this process. And what I can share with you is I've had conversations with the provost about this. I've had conversations with the chancellor about this, and we are very aware of this dimension and this component that we need to address, as part of this process. So this is part of what I've learned as I've sort of looked into this as this theme has emerged. And I think we're involved within the community in ways that people aren't aware of. And I don't think we do a very good job of promoting what we're doing out there. I think people are out there doing some things, but we don't necessarily know about it. So I think we have an internal communication problem. But I also think we have an external communication problem, because I don't know that we're out there in the community and even identifying who we are and what we're doing and what our commitment is. So I think we understand who we are as an institution. We understand where we're situated. We are an urban serving public institution located in the city of Flint. So we are an anchor institution in this community. We understand that. And I think we understand our role, but what I think this transformation will help us do is view this role, this relationship, this commitment, this responsibility through a new lens that allows us to reinvest and recommit to what that means as an institution, as UM-Flint, within this community. So I think that we will continue to see this develop and grow and continue to create new and innovative partnerships within the community. But I also think we have to do a much better job of communicating what we are actually doing out there, because we've been involved in the community for decades that people just aren't aware of. So I don't know if there's more comments.
I would love to, again, excellent question. What I want to add, one part of my comment has to do with Huron as a part of this transformative work. And I think what's critically important about having Huron, which some may perceive as an outsider, sometimes when you're in the thick of things, you don't always see things as clearly. So it helps when you have an outside entity with a certain level of expertise that can allow you to take in perspectives that you may not be as cognizant of otherwise. So it's critically important to bring, there are times it's critically important to bring in outside entities, which is why we have accreditors, you know, that come in from other universities, experts from all over the country that'll come in, because they're oftentimes able to help an academic unit to see things that might be glaringly obvious to these reviewers, but people in the thick of things every day may not see. So we're fortunate to have that resource. As it relates to community engagement, I think part of this transformation is that there is a heightened sense of importance associated with community engagement. And for me, even when you go back and you look at the founding of this university and the reasons why University of Michigan-Flint was founded over 65 years ago, it was to be a beacon of hope and light in the community, to help to resolve, to work in partnership to resolve some of the critical issues that exist within the community. We have pockets of excellence. We know we can do better. The deans are very much on board with deepening that sense of community engagement for not only our campus sake, but for the community, because it's reciprocal. So that is what this transformative process is all about as well.
Thank you, Provost.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Alicia. Well, folks, I think we're kind of at a natural end here. Once again, I just want to thank all of the students for not only joining us tonight, but for your participation and involvement throughout this process. I know we're still in phase one, so there's going to be a lot more opportunities for you guys to continue to engage, provide feedback, thoughts, ideas. So we look forward to that. I want to thank our student leaders for being here and for the work that you do every day. You know, to continue to engage your constituencies in this process, I think is going to be really important. You know, thank our Huron folks for joining us. You know, you guys have been very available and accessible throughout this process, and we very much appreciate that. And of course, our provost and our chancellor for always being available to meet and speak on these and other topics. So I want to thank you all. Wish you a good evening, and then I look forward to our next conversation.